Hey everybody, welcome back to my book chat channel. So this is a book review. I am currently doing the read along, which is I guess a readathon doing the Anna Green Gables series. It had technically started last month, so I got a bit of a late start. But I finished the first book and will be beginning the second book here very shortly. This is being run by Tia from Tia and All the Books, and I will tag her down below, so be sure to check out her channel. So I am listening to these on audiobook, but as I mentioned in a previous video, I do have hard copies of them. They are an incredibly old copy. I've had them since I was like 12 or 13, well over 15 years. Some of them have taken quite a beating, but they're still reading material intact, so while this one no longer has a cover, I can still read it. So I'm going to just kind of, for those of you who have never read the book or know nothing about it, I'll quickly go through the synopsis and then go from there. So, Anna Green Gables, Book 1. As soon as Anne Shirley arrived at the snug white farmhouse called Green Gables, she knew she wanted to stay forever, but would the Cuthberts send her back to the orphanage? Anne knows she's not what they expected, a skinny girl with decidedly red hair and a temper to match. If only she could convince them to let her stay. She tried very hard not to keep rushing headlong into scrapes or blurt out the very first thing she had to say. Anne was not like anybody else. Everyone at Green Gables agreed. She was special, a girl with an enormous imagination. The orphan girl dreamed of the day when she could call herself Anne of Green Gables. So, just to, I guess, touch on what the synopsis said, it's just a story of an orphan girl who goes to stay with an elderly couple on the island of Nova Scotia, island of Nova Scotia. Specifically Prince Edward Island, and I think this is the first time where I've actually gone through the entire story. Well, book 1 anyway. I have stopped and started it so many times throughout the years. I don't know why, I just couldn't get into it. Despite the fact that I have seen every movie, and maybe that's why. I'm a big fan of the movies and what I've seen of that, so it took me a little bit to get into this, but this time I actually was able to jump into it and be good with it. I really rather enjoyed the story. I'm a little bit of got a bit of a bias again, just because I've seen all the movies and I enjoy them, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure the series came out first, or the book series came out first. But it's just a really good, heartfelt story. It's in a bit of an old-fashioned setting, and there's lots of family values. There's a little bit of a Christian moral thrown in there as well. So, not that I'm heavy into that, but it's nice to see every once in a while in a good story that balances a little bit of everything. There's a little bit of a childhood romance. There's a little bit of the talk of one. There's lots of scrapes, lots of moments where you can laugh, you can get upset with them, and there's lots of awkward moments too as you go through the story with Anne and all the adventures she gets herself up into. In comparison to, I guess, the best thing for me to do, be comparing the book to the movies that I've seen, they weren't too far off the mark. I found that a lot of specific lines and scenes that I know from the movie are technically all in the book. They're just jumbled up. So they kind of took, I think, the best parts of the book and threw it into a movie, which wasn't a bad way to do it. So I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favorite stories in general, and I definitely would recommend this to anybody who might be interested in a bit of an old-fashioned story setting. I have to say too, just as a side note, I guess, going through the story, I actually prefer little bits of the book more than the movie in some aspects. I found that in the movies, I know that the story focuses primarily on Anne, and that's great, but there's so many other characters in there that are just as dominant in the story as Anne is. The Cuthberts, her friend Diana, even Mrs. Lynn, especially Mrs. Lynn, they've got a very big role. And while Mrs. Lynn had as much of a presence in the story in the digital world as she did in the book, I found that the Cuthberts not so much. In the book, I found that they shed a little bit more of a light on Mr. and Mrs. Cuthbert, or Matthew and Marilla. You get to know them a little bit more. You get to sort of get a sense of what the two of them are feeling a little bit more than you do in the movie. I almost wish that they would have included those kinds of things, just because while Marilla is a very closed-hearted person, she comes across as very cold at times. And the book describes that a little bit more than the movie does. So, if I were to say anything in terms of the comparison that maybe one was a little bit better than the other, it would be those specific details when it comes to the book versus the movie. So, yeah, that is my thoughts and opinions on book one. I'll show the back of the book because I no longer have the front of the book, but I will put a picture up here somewhere as well, just so you can see what the cover should look like. But no, I highly recommend this to anybody who loves a good heartfelt story, would be the best way to put it. So I will be jumping into the next book, which is Anne of Avonlea, and I have never read it. So anything that goes beyond or outside of the movie and show, I don't really know what I'm walking into. I know that some of this one is similar to the story outside or the digital world that I know of, but I don't truly know. I've never gone this far. At least I don't think I have. It's been a while since I've tried to read them, so this will be the next read, and I will do a review on that once it is done. So I thank you so much for checking out my channel, and I greatly appreciate your support. Have you read this book? Are you planning on reading this book? What did you think? Have you seen the different shows that they've come out with, the movies and everything that has come out over the years? You know, have you seen both versions or read both versions? What are your thoughts on the two? I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions. I hope to talk with you all again soon.